Joseph DeAngelo. The notorious Golden State Killer eluded authorities for more than 4 decades, but police have finally caught their man. While some would expect a monster in handcuffs, Joseph James DeAngelo was a seemingly ordinary former police officer living near Sacramento until April 2018. The 74-year-old was described by former coworkers as a regular Joe, despite his serious demeanor and non-existent smile. He's said to have been a meticulous homeowner, with attention to detail certainly befitting an ex-cop. But suddenly, in 2018, he was charged with unspeakable crimes. The Golden State Killer committed more than 50 rapes and 12 murders across California throughout the 1970s and 1980s. In over 40 years, nobody's been convicted of any of these heinous crimes until now. On June 29, 2020, Joseph DeAngelo pleaded guilty to 26 charges in a raping and killing spree. DeAngelo, who sat in a wheelchair and was covered by a white face mask as victims and family members gave testaments, rose out of the wheelchair and spoke free of the face covering. He was ultimately charged with 13 counts of murder, with additional special circumstances, as well as 13 counts of kidnapping for robbery. He received 11 consecutive life sentences for the crimes he did admit to, ensuring that he'll eventually die in prison. Jeremy Lee Moody and Christine Moody. Jeremy Lee Moody and Christine Moody admitted to purposely targeting and killing a couple in July of last year. The couple admitted to killing Marvin Parker, 59, and his wife Gretchen Dawn Parker, 51, and said that they chose their victims because he was a registered sex offender. They were unrepentant at the sentencing on Tuesday and even kissed after being sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences each. Initially, Jeremy and Christine Moody apologized to the judge and asked for a 30-year sentence so they could see their children and grow old together. But after Union County Judge Lee Alford handed down the maximum punishment, they showed how they really felt. "See you perverts!" Jeremy Moody shouted at Charles Parker's family as he walked out of the court. "That's what child molesters get." If authorities had not acted fast enough, they may have. Christine Moody said that they had another sex offender in mind as their 3rd victim, but were caught in connection to the Parker killings before they could strike again. The Moodys pleaded guilty to murder, kidnapping, burglary, and firearm possession, though they had personal connections to a local supremacist group, Crew 41, which the Southern Poverty Law Center notes has a history of targeting sex offenders. The Moodys claimed that the Parker's murder had nothing to do with the group. Bernie Madoff. Bernard Lawrence Bernie Madoff was an American financier who executed the largest Ponzi scheme in history, defrauding thousands of investors out of tens of billions of dollars over the course of at least 17 years, possibly longer. He was also a pioneer in electronic trading and chair of the NASDAQ in the early 1990s. On December 10, 2008, he confessed his wrongdoing to his sons, who worked at his firm. The following day, they turned him over to the authorities. Bernie remained adamant that his sons were not aware of his scheme. The fund's last statements indicated it had $64.8 billion in client assets. It is not certain when Madoff's Ponzi scheme began. He testified in court that it started in the early 1990s, but his account manager, Frank D. Pascali, who had been working at the firm since 1975, said the fraud had been occurring for as long as I remember. Even less clear is why Madoff carried out the scheme at all. "I had more than enough money to support my lifestyle and my family's lifestyle. I didn't need to do this for that," he told Fishman, adding, "I don't know why." Bernie Madoff was arrested on December 11, 2008. Madoff insisted he acted alone, though several of his colleagues were sent to prison. His elder son, Mark Madoff, committed suicide exactly 2 years after his father's fraud was exposed. Several of Madoff's investors also killed themselves. Andy Madoff died of cancer at age 48 in 2014. Madoff was sentenced to 150 years in prison and forced to forfeit $170 billion in 2009. His 3 homes and 4 boats were auctioned off by the U.S. Marshals. Madoff died of natural causes at the age of 82 in Federal Medical Center.
Armin Meiwes. Armin Meiwes is a German former computer repair technician who received international attention for murdering and eating a voluntary victim in 2001, whom he had found via the internet. He was arrested in December 2002. In January 2004, Meiwes was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 8 years and 6 months in prison. In a retrial in May 2006, he was convicted of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment. Because of his acts, Mae West is also known as the Rotenburg Cannibal or Der Metzgermeister, the Master Butcher. Mae West was arrested in December 2002 when a college student alerted authorities to new advertisements for victims online. Investigators searched his home and found body parts and the videotape of the killing. Mae West was diagnosed with a schizoid personality but deemed fit to stand trial. On January 30, 2004, Mae West was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 8 years and 6 months in prison. The case attracted considerable media attention. The German cannibal killer Armin Mae West was sentenced to life in prison today, as a court overturned his earlier 8-year sentence for killing and eating the computer engineer Bernd Jürgen Brandes in 2001. Mae West admitted cannibalizing Brandes and expressed regret for his actions. He added he wants to write a biography with the aim of deterring anyone wanting to follow in his footsteps. At his retrial, a psychologist stated that Mae West could reoffend, as he still had fantasies about devouring the flesh of young people. On May 10, 2006, a court in Frankfurt convicted Mae West of murder and sentenced him to life imprisonment. Mark Lutensky. A confessed Michigan cannibal was sentenced to life in prison for the Christmas Eve killing and mutilation of a man he met through a dating app in 2019. Mark Lutensky, 53, was handed a life sentence without the possibility of parole by a Shiawassee County judge after he pleaded guilty in September to the sickening slaughter of a 25-year-old hairdresser named Kevin Bacon. Lutensky was convicted of first-degree murder as well as disinterment and mutilation of a dead body, for which he received an additional 11-month sentence that will be served concurrently. He confessed to stabbing Bacon in the back and removing parts of his body, which he told investigators he ate. Bacon, of Swartz Creek, was reported missing by family members when he didn't show up to breakfast on Christmas morning in 2019. Investigators found his car parked at a Dollar General store and then tracked his last location to Lutensky's home in Bennington Township. His butchered body was found 3 days later hanging upside down from the ceiling of Lutensky's basement. Investigators said Lutensky and Bacon met via the LGBTQ dating app Grindr. Lutensky lured his victim to his home, where he brutally murdered him. Lutensky initially pleaded not guilty due to insanity but reversed course and pleaded guilty to murder right before the case was set to go to trial. Following the plea, Shiawassee County Judge Matthew Stewart was given the power to determine if the murder charge would be classified as first-degree or second-degree murder. He ruled that the killing was premeditated first-degree murder in October. That was it for today's video. We hope you like it. If you want to see more interesting videos, then make sure to subscribe to our channel, hit the like button.